Hello, my name is Rebecca Fisher, and I'm recording this essay for ESP 30901, Latin America on Film, under the supervision of Dr. Ileana Pagan Teitelbaum for the spring semester of 2016 at Westchester University. I'm recording from the College Arms Apartment Complex in Westchester, Pennsylvania. When presented with options for this essay, I'm sure everyone had the aha moment when their topic came to them. The theme of changing identities and human rights made that moment for me. No one, in real life or in film, is static. We are all changing, evolving to be the people we are now. All the films we have watched as a class showed some kind of transformation. This is especially true in the 2003 film out of Argentina, Captive or Cautiva, directed by Gaston Biraben. Icar Bolén's film, Even the Rain or También la Lluvia, out of Bolivia and Spain in 2010, similarly shows transformation. Both of these films had definitive moments where you watch a character change. It is in these moments that define people. It's the times of great change, the life-altering news, the hard choices. It's those stressful, hard times that give a window to who we are. According to Biraben and Bolén's films, it is in the time of great stress that a person's true nature is revealed. In Biraben's Captive, Christina goes through one of the most obvious transformations we have seen as a class. She has not only changed in personality, but changed completely in identity. In the film, Christina was one of the children of the disappeared in Argentina. According to the book The Little School by Alicia Partenoy, the youth movement was attacked as a threat to our country's security. Paramilitary groups kidnapped and killed political activists with the support of the police. Those kidnapped were the disappeared. Christina received shocking news that her parents were not truly her parents, and that she was in fact Sofia Lombardi rather than Cristina Quadri. After a period of denial, anger, and what seemed like part of the 7 stages of grief, she investigated on her own to confirm her identity. This is the scene that I believe is one of those defining moments that show us who we are. Up until this point, Christina has been slightly hesitant to see herself as Sophia. The investigation shows that she has not only accepted this to be her true identity, but she is doing her absolute best to learn as much about herself and her past as possible. In the realm of sound, as you saw in this scene, there is more impact from music than any other input. Musically, the piano is originally part of the environment. It is played very emotionally by her grandmother in their home. The piano moves to be part of the background noise, eliminating all other sound. The key switches back and forth from C minor to F minor, like Christina's identity seems to switch to Sophia. The tempo, too, is fluid, as the pacing of Christina's investigation ebbs and flows. Other musical aspects are reflective of the nature of the scene. The cello countermelody is introduced when Christina launches into the investigation independently rather than working with her grandmother or other supports. To support the visual aspects of the scene, when characters are shown going upstairs, notes are ascending. The music is paired to make thematic sense in the scene. The music is the main form of emotional expression in the scene, so its late classical to early romantic period composition fit it well. As stated earlier, the music eliminates all other sound. Therefore, there is no discourse. All the communication is done through the actions of the characters visually and the emotional aspects of the music. The director doesn't want the audience to be hung up on the science or the technicalities. He wants the audience to connect emotionally to Christina or Sophia. It's easy to understand the context without the discourse when you have visual aspects. This keeps the scene from being overwhelming. For example, the protests and the scene with the doctor may have people bogged down in the technicalities. This scene also presents as a non-fiction scene under the guise of a fictional story. Many aspects do not appear to be part of the filmmaker's creation. For example, the Grandmother's March looks to have been a filmed event just added to the movie, as the pillar does in the middle, plastered with the faces of the missing. This may be intended to make the situation seem more real for outside viewers who did not experience the disappeared firsthand. Because most of us did not experience this event firsthand, we do not have the same emotional connections as the characters we see. This scene really makes you feel for Christina and her struggle to find answers about her own past. The music is emotional, and her process is made unspecific by the lack of discourse. You can connect more to her as her search is generalized and set to such emotionally influenced music. While Boulain's film, Even the Rain, is not focused on transformation, the characters, most notably the producer Costa, were all placed in an incredibly stressful work environment, a violent social and political upheaval, and this event revealed exactly the sort of people they were, contrary to their original portrayal. The film mainly focuses on the social conscience between Columbus's exploitation of island natives and the parallels to the water crisis in Bolivia. All the filmmakers and actors within the story start with their own outward personality. When everything is going smoothly and their lives are easy, that doesn't change. But as the cast, crew, and production team encounter more problems related to the water crisis, and the threat of danger to themselves and the production increases, their personalities undergo a transformation. These people all showed their true colors when a stressful situation approached. Costa, the producer, was a prime example of this change. At the beginning of the film, Costa made many remarks to the end of, "All brown people look or are the same." He seemed callous and unconcerned with indigenous people's rights or even respecting them at all under his employ. But when things were at their worst, that was not Costa's true nature. There came a point where the danger in Bolivia was so great the crew decided to abandon the production for their own safety. The resulting rioting led to the injury of one of the extras that the filmmakers had employed. Here, Costa was faced with a choice. Does he risk his life and try to save the girl they had employed, or save his own skin and leave?
Bueno, vais tirando, no esperéis, nosotros nos alcanzaremos.
Hay una carretera abierta, pero la van a cerrar, hay que salir ya.
Vale, pues venga. ¡Arriba los coches! ¡Venga, nos vamos! Venga, nos vamos. ¿Quién queda por salir? Joder, vestuario, siempre igual, coño. Venga, vamos. Teresa, ¿qué pasa?
He venido a pedirte un favor. Mi hija se me ha escapado. Estaba jugando con los chicos del barrio y se me ha escapado. Se había ido a la manifestación. Ahí
manifestación?
Y ahora está herida. Me ha llamado del correo. Por favor, te
¿Está
pido.
herida? ¿Cómo?
Me han llamado de allá los vecinos que me conocen y me han dicho está herida.
Joder, Teresa, pero
Por
¿cómo
favor,
dejas a Belén en medio de todo ese caos?
Está así, yo no voy a ir, mi hija puede morir, por favor, te pido que me ayudes. Tienes que ayudarme a llevarle al hospital, por favor, se está desangrando, me puedes entender, estoy desesperada, yo no sé qué voy a hacer. Te lo pido, te lo ruego.
Vale.
¿Cómo quieres que te pida?
Vale, tranquila, yo no te envío ahora a alguien, ¿vale?
No puedes enviar a otro, es que no deja pasar a nadie, está llenito de policías, no quieren dar paso a nadie, solamente tal vez a vos te pueden dar paso.
Teresa, pero yo no puedo ir. Yo tengo que llevar a todo el equipo, estamos a punto de salir, de verdad, no puedo ir.
¿A qué voy a decir? No hay nadie, solamente a vos te puedo decir, por favor, ayúdame, te lo pido, por favor, te lo pido.
Espera un momento aquí. Que le ha pasado algo a la pequeña Belén.
¿Qué?
No sé, está herida.
Puta madre.
Tengo que ir, me ha pedido que vaya.
No, tú no vas a ir. Tú no vas a ir, no, ni madres que vas a ir. No te vas a meter ahí, eso es una zona de guerra, por favor.
Ya, Sebastián, pero es que ha dicho...
Tú no puedes hacer nada.
Pero me estás
No seas hijo de
poniendo
puta, no seas hijo de puta. Dile que no puedes ir tú. Dile que no vas a ir. Que te necesitamos acá con nosotros, por favor, Costa.
Yo ahora te envío a alguien, ¿vale, Teresa?
¿Me vas a ayudar, por favor? Ayúdame, no me dejes así.
Sí, te envío a alguien, de verdad.
No, a otra persona, no dejan pasar, por favor.
Yo no puedo ir, Teresa. Yo soy el responsable de todo el equipo, me tengo que ir con ellos. No puedo dejarles ahora, te envío a ellos. Te envío, que no puede ser, Teresa, no puede ser, de verdad. Venga, vámonos una puta vez, coño.
El único que puede
¡Vámonos ya!
hacerme, por favor, eres un amigo.
Espera aquí. Un segundo, Bruno, un segundo. Te vas con ellos, ¿vale? Yo voy a llevar a Belén.
No, estás loco,
Sí,
no.
nos vemos
No,
todos,
Costa, a ver,
pero-
escúchame un segundo, escúchame, este enfrentamiento va a pasar y se va a olvidar. Ok, nuestra película no. Nuestra película va a durar para siempre, Costa, por favor. Te vas tú, te llega a pasar algo y nos partes la madre a todos. Se va a la mierda todo.
Escúchame,
por favor, Costa,
escúchame por una vez en tu vida. Si le pasa algo a esa cría, no me lo voy a perdonar jamás. No me lo voy a perdonar.
Sí, Costa, pero a ver, el ejército está a punto de llegar y les va a partir la madre a todos, a ti, a todos.
Sí, pero que es una cría que no la puedo dejar ahí.
¿Pero qué vas a hacer tú?
Entiéndeme. No la puedo dejar ahí. Hazlo por mí. Échame una mano, por favor.
Puta madre, Costa, no nos puedes
Échame
dejar
una
acá
mano, Sebastián, por favor. Te lo estoy pidiendo, por favor. Vete con ellos. No puedo dejar ahí a esa cría. De verdad. Vete con ellos. Teresa, vamos.
The struggle you just watched acts as one of those hard, stressful, and truly defining moments for this character. The entire scene was filled with emotionally fueled discourse. The mother, Teresa, is desperate to find her daughter and convince the crew to help her. Sebastian, the director, is passionate, if not angry, that Costa is even considering not to agree with his decision to leave. Costa is torn. Here the audience watches Costa battle between his materialistic external personality and a more caring inner self. Costa's discourse slows as he comes closer and closer to a decision about what to do. The longer silences from Costa are aimed to show how hard it is for him to come to a decision. This makes him much more relatable and seem less villainous than he may have been perceived earlier in the film. The rhythm of this scene is predominantly decided by the pacing of the discourse. The passion and fervor of discussion turned argument dictates the rhythm. Teresa is panicked, so her speech is rapid and near continuous for most of the scene. It slowly turns into something like background noise as the discussion turns to Sebastian and Costa. Costa's speech slows as he is forced to decide between his film crew and the safety of Belen, the young girl in danger. The rhythm of the discourse may have been paced as such to allow the audience time to reason through the options and consequences with Costa before he comes to a decision. Only by altering the rhythm and discourse could the audience really see how much of a struggle this decision was for Costa and really empathize with the fear and struggle the mother experiences. In this scene, the camera remains loosely stationary in a position that is close to eye level, but it is removed from the direct paths of eye contact between characters. It was almost as though the camera was putting the audience in the position of an onlooker to this conversation. This gives the audience a near-human insight and makes it easier for them to connect to Costa and the mother, who were featured most prominently. The scene is structured so that the audience will sympathize most with the mother. We understand why she would be suffering and want her child to be fine and in one piece. This forced perception gives you a clue into why Costa is struggling with this decision. It also makes Sebastian, who was initially portrayed as an advocate for the indigenous people, seem heartless as he tries to pull Costa away from the struggling, sobbing mother. Boleyn was forced us into the position of the indigenous people in other instances earlier in the film. This is a natural continuation of that perspective to have us empathize with the suffering mother. This film is meant to portray the struggles of indigenous peoples and their exploitation in history by having the audience empathize with the mother and Costa who wants to help her. It only strengthens the perception of these people's struggles. While both films showed how characters develop in meaningful ways under stress, they had fundamentally different goals. But the films are similar in their use of character development. Both Boleyn and Biraben utilize their characters as their own plot, rather than having the plot happen around them. Christina, Sofia, furthers the plot by actively looking for information as she becomes more independent and tenacious. Costa's development allows the audience closure to see the outcome of Boleyn's injuries. The characters are not having actions done to them to further the plot. Rather, it is their decisions and resulting actions that drive the plot onward toward resolution. As previously mentioned, Boleyn's film, Even the Rain, wants to convey the plight of indigenous people through the ages. The director uses perspective and other devices to connect the audience to the indigenous people in multiple contexts. The Columbus film and the water crisis both had instances where the audience was put in the position of the oppressed people. Biraben's Captive was much more focused on transformation than Even the Rain, but it portrays the viewpoint defending the victims of the government and the disappeared and their families. The entire film follows Christina or Sofia as she discovers more about her family's past and the disappeared on the whole. Like many instances in Boleyn's film, the film perspective supports the victims of the government abductions, painting the government officials and their accomplices as villains. Both of these films are supporting the oppressed rather than those who had been in a position of power who had been able to write history at the time. But the different goals of the films lend themselves to different methods portraying meaning. Because Boleyn wanted to generalize the effects of oppression, Even the Rain used multiple storylines in the same film to show many different aspects of oppression through varying contexts and time periods. This gives the film a lasting impact on all viewers because it deliberately generalizes the message of history that many of us have learned in a very different light. Conversely, Biraben stays hyper-focused on one character to show the development of that character and how it can affect a person deeply. The difference in approach was really the difference between seeing a narrow but deep effect, other than a broad but more shallow effect on characters. I appreciate how both of these films chose to attain their goals, but I feel Biraben was much more effective in engaging the audience to feel for the victims of the government, the disappeared, and their families. The more emotional connection I felt was more engaging and made the film more memorable than the broad strokes portrayal that you see with the many victims in Boleyn's films. This gives the film staying power with viewers of all nationalities, ages, and races. We all have emotions and can empathize with Christina because Biraben chose to go so in depth. These films also differ in how they represent victims. Even the Rain shows victims as more empowered and in control. The people in Bolivia fight for their water. The natives rebel and flee from Columbus, mocking him in the face of death. This choice on the part of Boulain and the director in the movie Sebastian are supported by Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States. There he wrote, "The Indians' attempts to defend themselves failed, and when they ran into the hills they were found and killed. It makes these people seem less like victims or even oppressed people, and more like a social army, in that they were ready to fight and flee until they were physically unable to." Biraben decided to show Christina in an almost helpless to her fate. She has no clue about her past. Everyone around her seems to know more than she does, whether they are parents, government officials of some variety, or even just her friends. And it is only when someone else intervenes that she even knows that she's been affected by the disappeared that she has heard about on the news. Both these movies show impactful events in their respective countries' history. They use these stressful environments to shape characters like Christina and Costa, showing their true nature while giving the outside world a window into the social repercussions of situations like the disappeared or the water crisis. According to Biraben and Boulain's films, it is the times of great stress that a person's true nature is revealed. Costa and Christina are just two examples among many in the films, reflective of true human nature, a nature of change.